Every day, millions of people over the age of 60 step out the door with the belief that a gentle walk after dinner will help them live longer, sleep better, and stay mentally sharp. They carry with them hope, routine, and the reassurance that walking is good medicine. But as a doctor who specializes in brain health, I can no longer stay silent. I'm shocked, truly shocked, to discover that these seemingly harmless steps are quietly leading thousands of older adults closer to a stroke. I've seen hospital admissions in the middle of the night due to falls while walking alone, sudden dizziness, or dangerous spikes in blood pressure at 3 a.m. I still remember a patient named Dennis, 74 years old, with no prior history of stroke. He walked every evening after dinner, believing it helped his digestion. But one night, he came home pale and unsteady on his feet. 30 minutes later, he was in the emergency room with a right brain stroke. The cause? Walking alone after dinner at a time when blood pressure and the nervous system are no longer as quick to respond as they once were. We were able to save him, but the left side of his body will never fully recover. Dennis's story is not unique. I've seen far too many like it. An 80-year-old woman who still walked around the neighborhood after sunset fell while trying to climb a dark, slippery slope. No one noticed until a neighbor found her the next morning. Another elderly man, walking with headphones on, couldn't hear his son calling out to him as he began to stagger and nearly collapsed onto the street. No one ever told them that after 60, the body no longer regulates nighttime blood pressure as well as it used to, and no longer adjusts posture as swiftly as in youth. No one warned them that the timing and manner of walking could mean the difference between life and death. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you this so you'll know the truth. I'm telling you this because I've lost patients who didn't have to die. I'm telling you this because I feel a responsibility to speak up. And today, I want to share with you what I've learned from them, from those who survived and from those we couldn't save in time.
I thought walking was always good. That's the first thing I hear from hundreds of patients after they've experienced a serious health event. They weren't lazy. They weren't careless about their health. On the contrary, they were proactive, diligent, and believed in healthy habits. And then they fell. Not while hiking long trails, not after climbing mountains. They collapsed right on their familiar neighborhood streets, at a time they believed was safest, after dinner. A 77-year-old woman named Margaret once told me she was proud of never missing her evening walk in 15 years. It helps with digestion, helps me relax, and I always wear headphones to listen to podcasts, she said. This was her second night in the hospital. She had just experienced a transient ischemic attack, a warning sign of a real stroke. We had to explain to her that, at her age, her circadian rhythm had changed. Her body no longer processed pressure and posture the way it did when she was in her 40s or 50s.
And it wasn't just Margaret. An 82-year-old man named Carl often walked alone after dinner. One night, he slipped on the slope just outside his house. No one noticed for nearly 5 hours. He couldn't recall exactly what had happened. A small brain hemorrhage had caused disorientation and affected his short-term memory. He used to be mentally sharp, but after that night, he required assistance with daily activities. I know it may sound strange to say that walking the wrong way can be harmful, but science doesn't lie. After the age of 60, the body enters a different phase. The autonomic nervous system weakens, and baroreceptors, the sensors that help regulate blood pressure, respond more slowly. Especially at night, the body becomes more prone to sudden blood pressure spikes during deep sleep, a phenomenon known as REM surge. If you've taken a walk after dinner, your blood pressure may already be temporarily elevated due to digestion. Combined with physical exertion and improper walking posture, this can trigger a dangerous chain reaction. We once measured nighttime blood pressure in patients' bedrooms to understand this more deeply, and one pattern kept recurring. Blood pressure would suddenly spike 1 to 3 hours after the evening walk. What's frightening is that many experienced no symptoms, no dizziness, no headaches, until they suddenly couldn't speak, couldn't move an arm, and someone had to call for an ambulance. This becomes even more serious if you walk with poor posture. Tilting your head downward, using a walking stick incorrectly, or wearing shoes with poor design can all compress the carotid artery, the main vessel that supplies blood to the brain.
Many believe that as long as they walk regularly, it's good enough, but posture is a matter of survival. Another patient of mine, Mr. Lester, said he felt a heavy head every morning after walking the evening before. We discovered that he always leaned his head forward because his walking cane was the wrong height. The result was a slight but chronic reduction in blood flow to the brain, leading to symptoms that seemed harmless, a stiff neck, tired shoulders, trouble focusing, but were in fact early warning signs. I'm not sharing this to discourage anyone from walking. I'm sharing it so that people can walk wisely, at the right time, with the right posture. Because walking can be medicine, but used the wrong way, it can also become the quietest danger to your brain.
One of the messages that still leaves me speechless to this day came from a viewer named Lisa. She wrote, "My father had a stroke right after an evening walk. We always thought it was his healthiest habit." Her father, Harold, 79 years old, was a model father, disciplined and reliable. Every evening at 7 p.m., he would walk around the neighborhood. He never skipped meals, and he was never inactive. The problem wasn't that he walked. It was how he walked. Alone, after dinner, without drinking water, and along a sloped road. That evening, Harold had just finished a dinner of grilled meat and potatoes. He felt bloated, so he decided to go for a walk to digest it. As usual, he wore a light jacket, brought no water, wore headphones, and played one of his favorite symphonies. About 20 minutes later, he staggered. A neighbor saw him sitting on the curb, mumbling, his left arm limp. She called 911. Fortunately, he was rushed to the hospital in time. A stroke caused by a blocked artery in the brain. When I later spoke with Lisa, she choked up. "We thought exercise was enough. No one ever told us that the timing, the way you walk, and even drinking water could be matters of life and death." That story came just a week after I received another message from a different viewer. "Thank you, doctor. I showed your video to my grandmother, and everything changed after that." The message was from Julie, who lives in Arizona. Her grandmother, Eleanor, 82 years old, used to walk alone every day at 6 p.m. right after dinner. She said walking helped her feel less anxious, but she also admitted she often had headaches before going to bed. She said, "I thought it was just old age." After watching the video, Julie printed out what I had said and taped it to the fridge. Walk in the morning, bring water, no headphones, choose flat paths, wait at least 90 minutes after a meal, and most importantly, never walk alone. 2 weeks later, Julie sent me a photo. Eleanor wearing a wide-brimmed hat, holding a small water bottle, walking beside Julie at 9 a.m.
"She hasn't smiled this much in years," she wrote. "She feels safe, and so does our whole family." What I want to emphasize isn't some grand transformation. It's the small details, so small that we often overlook them. A glass of water, a properly fitting pair of shoes, a nod to invite someone to walk with you. These seemingly tiny things, for someone in their 70s or 80s, can mean life. Not long after that, I received another message, this time from a man recovering from a mild stroke. His name is George, 74 years old, a former firefighter. In his letter, he wrote, "I always thought I was strong. I climbed 10 flights of stairs at age 65. And yet just a few months of evening walks alone, and I almost never got to meet my grandchild." He explained that before the stroke, he often had mild morning headaches, which he assumed were from poor sleeping posture or just aging. After the incident, doctors told him those headaches were warning signs. His brain wasn't getting enough blood because he was walking too late, not drinking water, and often had his head down due to shoulder pain. Now George is different. He sent me a photo of his kitchen with 3 lines written on a whiteboard in marker. Walk with someone, drink water, don't ignore the headaches. He told me, "I survived because someone called for help in time, but I'll stay alive by changing these little things." As I read these words, I can't help but think about how many people out there are still walking alone in silence, brushing off small symptoms because they believe I'm still fine. Like Margaret, like Carl, like Harold, like Eleanor, like George. None of them were lazy. They tried. They believed they were doing the right thing for their bodies, but they were misled by common misconceptions. And when viewers share their personal stories like this, I understand more clearly than ever. Health after 60 is not just about medical knowledge. It's about the courage to change lifelong habits. It's about family, responsibility, hope, and the fear of losing what we love most. No one wants to collapse because of a habit that was supposed to be healthy. I don't share these stories to scare anyone. I share them so we can see that there is another way, a safer, more mindful, more compassionate one. And the most amazing part is, we can begin tomorrow. No medicine needed, no doctor's appointment required. Just a bottle of water, a walking companion, and a change in timing. An entire future can shift with just those simple steps.
What weighs most heavily on me isn't the severe stroke cases. It's the small signs that could have helped prevent them in the first place. A dull headache, a fleeting sense of dizziness when standing up, waking up with a stiffer neck than usual. These are not random occurrences. They are warning signs from the body. But most people over 60 ignore them, assuming they're just a part of getting old. Let me tell you about Mr. Michael, 68, who lives in Wisconsin. He has always been health conscious, ate well, slept on time, exercised regularly. Every evening after his 6 p.m. dinner, he would walk around the neighborhood for about 40 minutes. On an early winter evening, he felt slightly dizzy while reaching the end of the street. He paused for a few seconds, thinking it was due to overeating or poor sleep, then kept walking. Less than 12 hours later, he woke up with half his face numb and slurred speech. The stroke had happened while he was asleep. Doctors identified the cause as nocturnal hypertension, a condition most older adults have never heard of. Normally, blood pressure drops slightly during sleep, but in the elderly or in people with sleep disorders, the autonomic nervous system no longer regulates blood pressure effectively. Blood pressure can spike during the body's deepest relaxation phase, and that's what leads to early morning strokes. If you go for a walk in the evening, especially after eating, it raises your blood pressure just before bed.
Combined with spontaneous surges during sleep, this dramatically increases the risk of stroke.
This is why timing is absolutely critical when it comes to walking. When you walk in the morning, natural light helps reset your biological clock, regulates your heart rate and breathing, and lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. Early sunlight also boosts serotonin production, which helps stabilize mood and improve sleep quality at night. And when you walk before eating instead of after, your digestive system gets to work more efficiently, without added stress from physical activity. Posture while walking is another detail that few pay attention to, yet it makes a major difference. After 60, the spine and musculoskeletal system are no longer as flexible. If you walk with your head down or shoulders hunched, blood flow to the brain is restricted. If your gait is uneven or your shoes lack proper heel support, your body compensates by increasing pressure on blood vessels and neck joints. I once saw a man suffer a transient ischemic attack simply because he wore his backpack incorrectly during a walk. The strain on his cervical spine compressed his carotid artery. It all happened in less than 10 minutes. And if you have a history of high blood pressure, diabetes, arrhythmia, or take vasodilators, your risk factors double. Small choices, like walking right after taking blood pressure meds or skipping a check before physical activity, can cause sudden drops in blood pressure, making you faint mid-walk. Another patient of mine, Mrs. Ruth, 75, once fainted from low blood pressure while walking early in the morning without eating anything.
She wore headphones and was listening to a podcast, unable to hear a cyclist approaching from behind. The fall didn't cause a brain injury, but ever since, she's lived in fear. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said. "I didn't realize that just 30 minutes later, and a piece of toast would have changed everything." We can't turn back time, but we can change direction. And it doesn't require a medical degree. It just takes paying attention to your body, listening to small signs, and making adjustments in the simplest areas: walking time, hydration, posture, footwear, and whether or not you have someone walking with you. Another man, Mr. Thomas, after recovering from a mild stroke, started a morning walking group in his neighborhood. He didn't do anything extreme. He simply chose 8 a.m., invited friends of similar age, made sure everyone brought a small water bottle, and they all walked at a moderate pace together. After 6 months, their blood pressure improved, their sleep got better, and none of them had to return to the hospital. He called it intelligent walking. I call it proof that understanding things properly, doing them correctly, and living longer are all connected.
After hundreds of conversations with patients, thousands of hours reading medical records, and countless painful moments watching their loved ones break down outside the emergency room, I've come to realize one thing. Walking isn't the problem. It's how we walk that creates danger. The issue isn't in our legs, it's in our complacency. Mrs. Margaret, 76, still remembers that day vividly. It was a Sunday evening. After a dinner heavy with grilled meat and soda, she went out for her usual walk. The sunset was breathtaking, but she didn't notice much. She was in the middle of an exciting true crime podcast. Her headphones were snug, her head slightly bowed, no water in hand, and she walked down the familiar slope in her neighborhood. 15 minutes later, a neighbor found her unconscious on the grass verge. It was her first stroke. Fortunately, not her last. I don't share this to alarm you, but to help you realize just a few small changes, easy to do but often overlooked, can protect your brain with every step you take. First, the timing.
Walking isn't something you should do whenever you feel like it. After 60, the body's circadian rhythms shift significantly. After 8 p.m., the brain begins adjusting blood pressure and temperature in preparation for deep sleep. If you walk at that time, especially after a heavy meal, the body is forced to switch back into alert mode. Your heart beats faster, more blood rushes to the brain, while your blood pressure fluctuates. Worse still, REM surge, a natural spike in blood pressure that occurs between 3 and 5 a.m., may combine with those earlier stressors to create a scenario no one wants to face. That's why I suggest this. Walk in the early morning, before 10 a.m., when the sunlight is gentle and the air is fresh. If you're not a morning person, go after 4 p.m., when the sun is less intense but your body is still alert. These time windows allow your blood vessels to dilate in a stable way and avoid clashing with periods when the body is at higher risk of instability.
Next, water. I know, some people don't like carrying water because it's inconvenient, too heavy, or it's just a short walk. But please remember, after 60, the ability to sense thirst diminishes significantly. You could already be slightly dehydrated without realizing it. Your plasma thickens, blood circulation becomes more difficult, especially in narrow areas like the carotid arteries or cerebral vessels. And this condition lays the groundwork for silent strokes. Even just one glass of water before your walk and another afterward can help your blood flow more easily. For older adults, this isn't a small matter. It's an act of safeguarding your alertness, your ability to speak, your memory, and your independence. Don't forget your shoes. I've seen many patients hospitalized wearing stylish shoes that were totally inappropriate. Worn-out soles, rigid heels, no arch support, slippery, or lacking grip. A minor slip might be trivial for a younger person, but for an older adult, it could mean a fall that leads to a brain bleed. Let your feet, not your mirror or fashion sense, decide. Try on several pairs.
Walk in them for at least 5 to 10 minutes at the store. Ask the staff about shock absorption, anti-slip soles, and heel support, because this isn't just about walking. It's about whether your brain receives a consistent blood supply or not. And perhaps the most important, but often underestimated point, you don't have to walk alone. Having someone with you isn't just for company. It's an extra layer of emotional and physical safety. Over 60% of older adults admitted after a fall weren't found in time because no one was there. If you enjoy solitude, at least carry an alert device or a smartwatch with a fall sensor. Someone once told me, "I don't want to bother anyone." And I said, they'd rather be bothered than lose someone they love. Lastly, don't forget your hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen. Harsh sunlight doesn't just harm your skin. It can also cause vasodilation, leading to sudden drops in blood pressure, especially during prolonged outdoor activity. Sunglasses don't just reduce glare. They protect the retina and optic nerve, both of which are directly connected to the brain. As for a wide-brimmed hat, it's not just stylish. It helps block UV rays, which over time can increase the risk of cerebral microvascular inflammation. I know this may sound like a long list, but it's not a limitation. It's a choice. You have the right to walk safely, intentionally, and confidently. You don't have to fear every step, as long as you know how to turn each step into an act of self-care.
I once heard an elderly man say, "Only young people fear sudden death. I've lived long enough." I didn't argue with him, but I told him another story. Not a story about death, but a story about life and how we live it. With stroke, it doesn't always take you instantly. Most people survive.
but they live in a body that no longer responds to their will. They have to relearn how to hold a spoon, how to pronounce words like child or grandchild. They live unable to say the name of the person sitting beside them. For someone who has been sharp their entire life, it's a quiet form of torture, one only those who've been through it truly understand. And do you know what's most heartbreaking? Most of it can be prevented. All it takes is understanding just a few key things. Let's start with something called baroreceptors. Don't worry, I'm not going to overwhelm you with medical jargon. Imagine tiny switches in your body, located around your neck and chest. Their job is to alert your brain when your blood pressure gets too high. Normally, these sensors help your body adjust blood pressure every time you stand up, bend down, or change posture. But after age 60, these switches become dulled. They react more slowly.
And if you change positions suddenly, bending down to tie your shoes, then quickly standing to cross the street, your brain may not have time to adjust. Your blood pressure may swing abruptly. This is a common cause of dizziness, falls, and sometimes even strokes caused by sudden drops in brain perfusion. Now let's talk about what I call the silent visitor at night, REM surge. When you enter deep sleep, your body switches into full rest mode. But there's a short phase in the sleep cycle called REM, rapid eye movement, during which your heart, brain, and blood pressure behave almost as if you were awake. During this time, blood pressure can spike dramatically without you ever knowing. If, during the day, you've already strained your cardiovascular system by eating too much salt, getting poor sleep, or walking at the wrong time, the REM surge becomes the moment when everything adds up. And the stroke doesn't happen because you walked incorrectly. It happens because everything wrong accumulated until the right moment arrived. Let me tell you about Mr. Gerald, a retired history teacher from Michigan. He lived carefully, read the news, took his medications faithfully, and had never smoked. Yet he collapsed in his bathroom at 5 a.m. An MRI revealed that a small blood clot had blocked the blood supply to part of his left brain. The cause? A surge in blood pressure at the end of his sleep cycle, combined with mild dehydration and an undiagnosed arrhythmia. That clot was so small that, had it been caught just 20 minutes earlier, he would not have lost his ability to speak.
Have you heard the phrase, "time is brain"? Every minute after a stroke begins, nearly 2 million brain cells die. The sooner you intervene, the more you preserve your memory, your patience, your speech, your ability to recognize your loved ones. There's no miracle drug that can restore those neural networks once they're damaged. The miracle doesn't lie in machines. It lies in the moment you act correctly, at the right time. If there's only one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this. Your brain doesn't need grand gestures. It just needs you not to dismiss the little things. Don't underestimate the importance of drinking water. Don't ignore that numbness in your hand while walking. And above all, don't assume that stroke is some far-off concern. I'm not here hoping you'll live long just to survive. I'm not hoping you'll extend your years only to depend on a ventilator, a wheelchair, or a mind clouded by confusion. I hope you'll live brightly. Just one word, bright. Bright in your mind, bright in your steps, bright in the choices you make each day. Not because you're a patient, but because you've walked through more life than I have. Because you've raised children, cared for grandchildren, and mastered a life full of choices much harder than walking the right way. Science is what I carry with me every day in my work. But love, I've learned that from people like you. People sitting by a hospital bed, eyes red from holding back tears, watching their spouse no longer remember their name. Children hugging their parents in wheelchairs, trying to smile with trembling hands. I've seen it so often that sometimes it's hard to breathe when I hear someone say, "Stroke is just fate." You don't have to change your whole life to avoid a stroke. You just need to make the right choice, even 1% at a time. One glass of water before your walk. One call to invite someone to join you. One sun hat. One stretch of path with a clear view. Tiny changes, very small, but together they can create a life where you keep your dignity, your voice, your memory, and the ability to hold your grandchild without needing help.
I didn't make this video just because you're watching. I made it because I'm about to send it to my father. He's still stubborn, still walking alone at 7 p.m., still hiding his headaches. I'm scared, but I can't be beside him every moment. All I can do is leave him with things like this. Real things, real science, and real love. Just like I'm leaving with you now. If there's someone in your heart who's worth living healthier, living brighter for, please send them this video. Not because I need more views, but because you need more company. We don't change the world with words. We change it through the choices we repeat every day. And today, I hope you choose the right one.
If you've watched this far, I know you're not just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about your partner, your sibling, the neighbor who walks every morning, or the close friend who still wears headphones while crossing a quiet street. So please, share this video with them, not as a warning, but as a way to walk alongside them. One simple click today could change the journey of someone's entire year ahead. Print the safety checklist and stick it on the fridge. Place it next to the medication box, beside the family photo frame, because sometimes what matters most is not what we remember, but what reminds us every single day. I printed it out and sent it to my mother. She said, "I'll keep it near the tea kettle. Easier to remember that way." I believe she'll remember, and I believe the person you care about will too. And if you've been through a stroke yourself, or you're helping someone recover, leave a comment below. It doesn't have to be long. Just share one habit you're about to change or one thing you wish you had known sooner. I read every word. Others do too. Because sometimes your quiet little story might be the push someone else needs. Someone sitting silently on the other side of the screen. We can't control time, but we can control how we live within it. Don't keep the good things to yourself. When you share what's right, you're not just helping one person, you're helping change a community. And in that community, there may be you or someone you love deeply.